Hello everyone, welcome back. So today in this video we are going to look at generators and closures and what actually generators mean. Okay, so here I have an example of a function. So this is a function called as square numbers, which actually takes a list of numbers and it generates a new list with the square of each and every number within that original list, right? So I have a list here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm passing it to the square numbers function. Here the list of numbers comes into the nums variable. We are creating an empty list called as squared numbers. I'm iterating through the original list and I'm appending the square of each and every number to the squared numbers list. And finally, I'm returning out the squared numbers list as a result. All right. Now, if you see, running this function and I'm printing out the result. Now we should be seeing the numbers 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, which are the square of all the numbers in this particular list. All right. Now, instead of doing this, instead of calculating all the squares and then storing them into a new list and returning the new list, you can do something like this. Instead of using the return, you can use yield. So basically, how yield is different from return is that once the control hits the return statement, the control is actually exited. The function is actually exited, and we don't look back to the function. The function is already executed, and it is not we don't re-execute it until unless we call it again, right? But in yield function, what it does is it actually returns one number by one number, one after the other. Okay, so it actually returns multiple times. So that's a basic difference between a return and a yield statement. So we are doing the same thing here. Instead of creating a new list and returning the entire list, we are actually returning one squared number after another. So I have a list here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm passing it to the square numbers function, and I'm printing out the result. And now this shows that the result is a generator object. So this, by using a deal statement, the function becomes a generator object. Okay. So generator object is basically something that generates one number after another as we iterate through it. All right. Now let's see how can we get the values out of the generator object one by one. So you can either use a for loop to generate the values one by one. So I'm just using a for loop to iterate through the result object, which is a generator object. And as expected, we can see that all the numbers we have here are the square of the numbers in the list L. All right. And there's another way of retrieving numbers or results from the generator object. First one is the for loop method. Second one is the next. By using the next function, you can actually get one number after another or one value after another from a generator function. So basically, if I try to run this loop again, so if you observe here, we have already iterated through the generator object once. But if you try to iterate through it again, if I try to run this again, you will see that we don't get any value. We don't get any return. We don't get any value printed because we have already exhausted through the generator and we don't have any more values to generate. A generator doesn't have any more values to generate, right? So that's why I'm just creating a new generator object here using the same list L, and I'm using the next function to retrieve to generate one value after another. So I'm trying to generate three values by printing out three times the next of result, and I should see 1, 4, and 9. Yeah. So how this helps is that if you have a very huge list or very huge data structure that you want to iterate, that you want to run a function on, but you don't want we don't want the values, the result of all the values in the data structure or in the list, you can use generator object. So this will save you the time or the computation power or time for running that function on each and every element of the data structure, right? So that is how a generator is useful. By generating the necessary numbers, you can only run the function on your required number of values instead of running it on all the values and returning the entire result back to the variable. And there is another way of creating a generator. So this is a method called as list comprehension. So you can get the squared values of a list by using list comprehensions in a shortcut way. So what I'm doing here is that I'm creating a list. You see the square brackets, we are creating a list and we are saying list should contain I times I, which is a square of I for I in L. So, okay, so this means that for each element I in the list L, we are taking the square of that I and we are putting it into a list. So that's how list comprehensions work. And if I run this, I should get this exact same result. I should get all the squared numbers of the elements in L. All right. So creating a generator is also very easy. We use a similar syntax, but instead of using the square brackets, we use the normal parentheses, the normal brackets, and it will create a generator object for us. There we go. We have a generator object, and we can simply use the for loop or the next method to generate each and every value out of this generator. Or if you want all the items as a list, you can simply use the list function to get the list out of the generator object. So if I'm using the list function, I get the list of all squared numbers out of the generator object. And that is all about generators that you need to know. These are very helpful when you're dealing with very, very large data structures and you don't want the values of each and every element in the data structure, but only a few values. Then generators are very time saving and very efficient. Now let's look at closures. So closures is a very common concept in JavaScript as well as Python, but more in JavaScript. But we are going to look at closures here. So before getting to closures, you need to know one thing first, that functions, all the functions that we write, whatever functions that we write in Python are called as first class functions. So what do you mean by first class functions? Which means that you can treat functions in Python as normal objects, right? You can treat any function in Python just like you can treat an object, which means that you can pass a function as an argument to another function, right? You can pass one function to another function as an argument, or you can return a function from other function. So in the return statement, you can return another function as a return value, or you can assign a function to any variable. So all of these operations we can perform on any object in Python. Similarly, you can perform all these operations on any function as well, as if it was any other object. That is what I mean by first class functions. Now let's look at some of the basic concepts before jumping into closure, so that we have a little bit of a background work on it. All right. So here I have a function called a scope function. So we are going to see how scope actually works. We have a function called a scope function. This is just like any other normal function that we are creating. I'm just named it as scope function. And in this, I have a local variable. Okay, so I have a local variable which is created within the scope of the function, which means that this variable is not accessible outside the function, but this variable is only accessible within the function. You can utilize a variable only within the function, but not outside the function. We are going to see how that actually looks like. So a variable called as a local var, and inside this I have a string stored which says I am a scoped function. Okay, so this is saying that I am from scoped function. So this variable is local, is scoped locally to this particular function only, and I'm printing out this variable. All right. Now, if I call this function, this variable should create it within this scope, and it should get printed. And after this function is executed, if I still try to print out the local variable, it won't let me access, or Python will not recognize any variable called as local var, because the local var is created within the function, and once the function is executed, once the function is finished executing, which means the function is exited, we don't have any instance or any reference to the local var anymore, which means all the local variables for that function are destroyed. We don't have that variable anymore. So now let's see that in action. So I'm just calling it once. So this if I run this statement, it should call this function, and this particular message should be printed out. This particular variable should be printed out, and then after the function is finished executing, I'm just trying. So here's throwback to the exception handling in Python. So I'm just using a try and except block to try to print out the local var variable after the execution of the scope function that we have created. And if this is not running, this should very likely throw a name error, because this is no longer available for us. This variable is destroyed after the function is already executed. So this should throw a no name error saying that we don't have any variable called as local var. And I'm trying to catch that name error that it is going to throw, and I'm going to print it out as an error message. Now let's just see how it works. There we go. First of all, we got this message printed in this particular function. And then after the function is executed, when I try to print out that function variable again, it is throwing a name error. And the name error says that the name local var is not defined. It is saying that it is not defined because it is already destroyed and we don't have any instance for that particular variable. So that is how scope actually works. Now I'm going to show you that we can create nested functions, which means we can define functions within functions. This is very interesting to see. Just pay attention. So we have an outer function. In this, we have a variable called as var1. All right, and the var1 holds a string saying that outer scoped variable says hello. Okay, so this is outer function, and we have a variable within the outer function which says outer scope variable says hello, and we have an inner function which is inside the outer function. Okay, so please do concentrate here. uh, we have an inner function which is inside the outer function, and inside that I'm trying to print out the variable var1. Okay, so here the variable var1 is called as a free variable because we are accessing the this variable from its parent scope. Okay, so the inner function scope is this much, but we are accessing and the outer function scope is this much, and we are accessing the var1 which is over here. So this is like accessing from a parent scope, so hence this is called as a free variable. It is free to access, so we are getting this var1 freely accessible from the outer function scope, and we are just printing it out over here. Okay, so the inner function is actually taking the outer scope variable and it is printing it out, and that is it for the inner function. Now coming back to the outer function, we are just calling the inner function method over here. So the outer function contains a variable uh, definition of a function, and then it is returning. So in the return statement, we are just calling the inner function that we have defined. So if I run this and if I call the outer function, this should create that variable. This should define the function and this should call that function. So if I call this inner function, this should get executed and I should be seeing the var1 being printed. All right. So let's just see. I'm calling the outer function. And there we go. We are seeing that the var1 is printed over here. So that means that the inner function is able to access the variables from its outer or parent scope. Makes sense, right? Now, after you are thorough, after you are thorough with all these explanations about the about what a first class function means, or how the scope works, and how the nested function work, now we can jump into closures. So let's first go through the definition and we'll look at an example. So basically, closures are the inner functions that remembers and has access to all the variables or data in its parent scope, which is the outer function, even though the outer function has finished execution. I'll just show you what that means, and this definition will make more sense. So I have the same thing. I have outer function, the variable, and the inner function defined here. And then in the return statement, instead of executing it, so if you notice here in the previous example, I'm returning the execution of the inner function. I'm executing the inner function over here, but here what I'm doing is I'm returning the inner function. So if you remember, every function is a first class function, which means I can treat them as an object. Hence I can return them as a return value from a function. So I'm returning a function as a return value of another function. So outer function is returning the inner function as a return value. Okay. So here I'm printing out the free variable var1, and in the return statement I'm returning the function without executing. I'm just returning the reference to a function. All right. Let me just run that. And now here this time I'm executing the outer function. So this should return the reference to the inner function over. So the inner function should be returned and stored in my func. All right. So till here, okay. So after the execution of this line, outer function has already finished execution, and var1 is no longer accessible. This is what we learned from this example. After the score function has finished execution, the local var is no longer available and we should get an error, right? Saying that there is no variable as such. But here, you see, here also it should happen the same. The outer function has already finished executing. It has returned the value and the work is done for the outer function. It has nothing to do, and all the data that has been created in the outer function should get deleted, and var1 shouldn't be accessible anymore. All right, that is what we learned from a while ago. But after that, I'll show you something interesting. Here, inner function is being written. I'm trying to print the inner function and the name of the inner function, my func. So you see, after I try to print my func, this is showing that this is a function which is in outer function and is a local called as inner function. Okay, so you can get a gist of where that my func is coming from this statement. And if I try to print the name of my func, it is showing that it is the name is inner func because the name that we created for that function is inner func. And if I try to execute this, so let's see, I have the inner functions reference in my func. And if I try to execute this, it should print out var1. But var1, according to what we learned from scoped variables, var1 is already destroyed because outer func has finished execution and it shouldn't be there. It should no longer be accessible. var1 is already destroyed. But if I try to run my func, which is the inner func, we get the value of var1 being printed. So that is what called as closure. So let me just go through the definition one more time and it will all make sense. So closure is nothing but inner function that remembers. Okay, so inner function is remembering and has access. So it is remembering and has access to all the variables in its parent scope. So if you see, the inner function is remembering and it has access to all the variables in its parent scope. So which is var1. It is remembering and has access to var1 even though the outer function has finished execution. Okay, so even though this function is finished execution and its work is done, the inner function is still remembering those values and it is still having the access to those values. So that is what actually is meant by closure. So closure is the inner function remembering all the values and variables and accessing those values of the parent function even though the parent function is finished execution. So that is what closure means. And today in this video, we saw about generators, how we can create generators and how we can yield numbers from generators and how closures work. And we got a gist about what closures are. And that is it for this video. And I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.